Hey there, it's Daven. I can't believe it. We are just 24 hours out from the Social Sonic launch. 1 year in development of the software, over 6 months of planning to make this launch happen, and as far as we know, nobody has ever done 200 webinars in 30 days. And I want to just take a quick moment, peel back the curtain, and let you know what's going to be happening over the next 30 days. So first of all, most of our webinars are actually scheduled for the first 20 days of November. In the last 10 days, we're going to be reaching out to all of you that made the top 20 and letting you know that, hey, you may want to encore to really win the prizes and the car. What I want you to know is we're so excited to be working with you. Also, please keep an eye out for emails or texts from our team as we need to get quick responses for you for technical questions and so on and so forth. So please respond back to those people when you hear from them. Otherwise, let's rock it out, let's make a ton of money, and also let's change a lot of lives. So we just want to thank you for participating in the launch from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for your support. Let's make it happen.
Okay, so that was one of the videos that we shot out to the partners the day before the launch. It was a big day. So you guys want to see how we did it all? Yes. All right. So to do that, before we do that, I need to share with you, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the launch, I need to show you how I do webinars, because I think a lot of you need that information. So how many of you are currently doing webinars in your business? Okay. It's fascinating to watch you guys get more and more sophisticated, because that's what's going on, right? It's getting easier and easier to use platforms, and people are figuring it out, right? So it's pretty cool. Normally I say who's doing webinars, and like 2 people raise their hands. This time it was maybe 15, 10, 12. It'd be great if all of you raise your hand, yeah? Who wants to do webinars in their business? There you go, all right. So why webinars? Why do we want to do webinars? What's that? Okay. Product launch. What's that? Gauging. Better conversions. Make money without being present. That's a great reason.
Transform people's lives.
Transform people's lives, absolutely. Speak to larger groups. I feel like that's the number one reason. Speak to larger groups, right? Because we want to go from marketing to one to marketing to many all the time, right? Also, I said, but you know, a couple of really huge ones. Change somebody's life. You can't change somebody's life on a sales page. But you can on a webinar, right? You could because you have more time to share information. You can also tell the full story, so you could probably sell something for more money, right? Because you have time to build a relationship. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give you some of my, I'll call them basics, but they're really certainly definitely not basic, but my basics, because you need to have a foundation. Sound good? Okay, so in my world, there are basically 3 types of webinars. So there's live, there's, I guess I'll call it like live, and then there's recorded, okay? And there's a myriad of different platforms that you can use to deliver these different types of webinars. If I want to deliver a live webinar, what would you guys say would be the gold standard of live webinars? GoToWebinar? Yeah. What other platforms could we do a live webinar on? Vimeo. Can you do live webinars? Demio. Okay, got it. Yeah, cool. Webinar Jam, absolutely, which is basically Hangouts, but overlay of Hangouts, yeah. Hangouts, Facebook Live. Yeah, I mean, you could do a live presentation on Facebook Live, sure, absolutely. Which one? Webinardo. I don't know that one, but sure, yeah. Which one? Webinar Geo. I don't really know that one either, but yeah. So there's a lot of platforms, aren't there? And what I've found is that there's no perfect platform. Some get real close, but for me, I use GoToWebinar. Okay, and the reason why I use GoToWebinar is I just feel that it's the gold standard. If you are watching my webinar on GoTo, you know it's live, right? Right? Nah. Okay, so that's where we expand this conversation to like live. Okay, so how many of you are on the Social Sonic webinar? Yeah. How many of you have been on other webinars I've done? Okay. My time is very valuable. I value my time at a couple $1,000 an hour. Like if you want to get me for an hour of consulting, it's a couple grand. So I'm not willing to be on a webinar for an hour. Okay, well, that's not entirely true. If I'm gonna make 50, 60, 100K for an hour, 90 minutes, I'll do that. I mean, who would not want to do that, right? So so I'll do that if I have to. but really, honestly, for the most part, there's no need. And as we get into the Social Sonic launch, you'll see why. Okay. Now, just so you know, GoToWebinar is not an automated webinar platform. There's no scheduling of webinars. It's not set up to do canned webinars. Okay. Having said that, there are ways to make it happen. Okay. I don't even know how to do it, but we do it. So it can be done. There are people that can do it for you. We have people in-house that do it. We also have a company that we use, and I can certainly give you their information. I guess, yeah, I'll give you their info. Or actually, I'll give you Aaron's information on our team later. Okay, so like live. And we do a ton of webinars like live. Matter of fact, that's almost all we do is like live. So when you're on a webinar with me, the odds, I shouldn't tell you this. And I kind of I just broke the illusion, right? But hey, I have to be honest with you here, right? This is, I can't bullshit you. So yeah, the reality is I'm usually not on the webinar. Now, yes, I do. Now I will tell you this. I'm sure some of you in the room have been on a webinar where I've called you out, okay? Yeah, so sometimes they're live, but also a lot of time you guys are on the webinar, even you've done this, you've been in the chat and you're like, hey, Daven, and I answer back. That's because I'm usually nearby, okay? And Liz was the main chatter. Now since the launch, we moved a lot of that over to the Philippines. But a lot of time, I'm there. If you shout out and I answer you back or something, it's probably me. I'm usually around. I'm just not necessarily locked into the webinar. Okay, so live. And then there's recorded. And when I talk about recorded, what I'm saying is actually using an automated webinar platform that does the whole thing. It's automatically, you're not there, you don't show, it all is automated, okay? And what would be some platforms for that? Webinar Jam is live, but the canned version is EverWebinar. EverWebinar. Mm-hmm. The question is, do I use that? And the answer is yes and no, and I'll explain in just a moment. Mostly yes, but I'll explain in just a moment. What are some other examples? ClickFunnels. Yeah, ClickFunnels does have an automated webinar platform. Yep. What else? What's that? Easy Webinar. One that I don't know, but yeah, sure. What else? Stealth. Yep, absolutely. Any others? There's a lot, but what's that? Okay, cool. So although there are a lot, I think for my money, it would probably either be Stealth, EverWebinar, or maybe ClickFunnels. I haven't had a lot of experience with ClickFunnels. We use ClickFunnels, but we haven't used that side of ClickFunnels. So here's what I'll tell you. The problem with what's great about technology is that it's always evolving. What's terrible about technology is that it's always evolving, right? And so I'll just kind of give you an example. So we were on EverWebinar. Mike Filsame's a very old dear friend of mine, and he and Andy came up with EverWebinar, and so we were on EverWebinar, which is a killer platform. Actually, let me back up. Before that, we were on EBS, which is Evergreen Business Systems. EBS, that was their early version, so we were on EBS. At the time, I felt that EBS was the best written piece of software in the whole internet marketing space. It was incredible. Then they came out with EverWebinar. I go, oh my gosh, EverWebinar is even better. I couldn't believe they could make it better, but they did. It was tremendous. And what's cool about it, it's the recorded side of Webinar Jam. And so when you have an EverWebinar running, it says Webinar Jam. So you presume that it's live. The only way you wouldn't know that it's live is if you looked at the code, if you looked at the source code. So that was really cool. So we moved everything over to EverWebinar. And then I was at InfusionCon, the last one, and I ran into Jeff Roning, who's an old friend of mine as well, and he owns Stealth Webinar. And I go way back with Jeff because we used to use Stealth when there was nothing else. And so I ran into Jeff. I'm like, hey, Jeff, good to see you. Hey, buddy. I said, dude, I got to tell you, I'm just going to be honest with you. I feel really bad, but I went over to EverWebinar, because his system, it looks very 1990s, And he goes, you don't know that if somebody's viewing it on a mobile device that they can see the scrub bar? They can see the play bar? I go, what? but I didn't even know if I really fully believed him. Not that he would lie, but I was just like, well, I find that impossible to believe, kind of. But I was like, okay, that's cool, Jeff. And then I left. 10 minutes later, he comes running up to me. Daven, look, I pulled it up for you. And there it is on his iPhone. And there's this live webinar playing, and he goes, forward, reverse. I'm like, what the hell? Doesn't that suck? So anyways, so then I was like, oh gosh, this sucks. So then we move everything back to stealth. Then Android comes up with an update, and now stealth won't play on Android devices unless you download this browser that nobody's ever heard of, like some weird foreign browser. So we moved everything back to EverWebinar. We did, the cool thing about the launch is we did 140 webinars in about 30 days, and most of them were in 20 days. And it allowed us to collect a ton of data. We knew a lot about webinars we've been doing for a long time, but taking in that much data on one webinar in such a short amount of time gives you a ton of data, which was pretty cool. So one thing that we learned is that, not a ton of people are watching webinars on mobile devices. They are, but not that many. And the reason why, what do you think the reason is? Screen size, maybe. Bandwidth, it's all the same. Interruptions.
Data usage.
What's that?
Data usage.
Data usage, maybe.
Sound quality.
Maybe. Sound quality. Tired of holding their phone. You may get a phone call, get knocked off. These are all valid, but you haven't got the biggest one, the real reason. Why they don't use mobile devices. Nope. Nope. What? Battery. Right? You can't get through a webinar on a mobile device, really, if it's a long one, right? You can't do it. So, yeah, mine, not mine. So, but all of those reasons are the reason. But is that going to change? Yes. It's going to change, yeah. So what we learned is probably about less than 20% of the people on our webinars were on mobile devices. And I think it was way less, because one of the issues we had with some of the tracking is that people register on their mobile device, but watch it on their desktop or laptop. And we had a lot of problems with kind of tracking that. The biggest challenge that we're having these days is that everybody's on multiple devices, and they're using multiple emails. So they'll register with one email, and then they'll watch it on a different device, and then buy it with a different email. And we use the email address to connect the dots. So it really creates problems, And there's all kinds of things we're doing about it. Some work, some don't. Things change. It's technology. It's changing all the time. So anyways, so of all those platforms, what are we using now? Stealth, EverWebinar. Which one do you think we're using? Our own, I wish. We're using EverWebinar. I think it's the best option. Okay, and somebody will get it right 100% at some point, but anyways, it's real close. It's a nice system. So when do we use a recorded platform? When do we use that? After the webinar? Well, we're going to deliver the webinar on this recorded platform. Replays? We do use them for replays. Yes, well that's true, but where in our marketing matrix do we use these? Time zones. Not really. I mean, not really. I'll make it easy on you. So we use these inside funnels. Okay, so for example, what's that? Yes, that is correct. That's correct, Sonata. Yeah, so basically, we do these events, and that's like a live webinar or a live webinar, but we have all these funnels that Sonata nailed it. So we have these funnels that are running all the time, like that one I showed you earlier, and people are just coming in all day long and all night long. And rather than set up like a special event for them, we just have that webinar running all the time, and it's on demand. And it basically, I think every 15 minutes, it appears. So Every webinar, Stealth, they all have their things set up a little bit differently. So I think Stealth is like, you can set it for every 15 minutes. Every webinar has a pretty cool setup. So you can set up like one at a specific time and date, or as many as you want as a specific time and date, but every time they log in, there will also be one just starting in 5 minutes. Like, oh, what a coincidence. We have one starting in 5 minutes if you want to just jump on this one. Okay, yeah, it's amazing. It really is. It is. Now, which one of those do you think gives us the best conversion? Okay, so who says live? Okay, everybody, you have to raise your hand. So you have to pick one of them. So who says live? Okay. Who says like live? Okay. And who says recorded? Okay, all right. So live and like, well, for most people, most marketers, it's going to be live. For us, because we mastered this, and I'm going to show you how we did it, it's live and like live. We'll get the exact same result. Recorded is going to be less. So why is this? Why is this? So Sonata said lack of engagement. Not necessarily, because on recorded platforms, we can program the engagement. We can automate and program the engagement, and I'll talk about it. Remind me to talk about that in a second. Or we can actually have live engagement in the chat, just like a regular webinar. Although that one's problematic. That was tough, because you'd have to have somebody kind of around the clock. But we can do that. So why is recorded, why do we get lower conversion? Perception. You're very close, yeah. Brand trust. Yeah, you're both kind of on the same page. So the real reason, well, there's plenty of urgency, believe me, on the recorded webinars. They do a really great job. So the real reason is we don't know. I mean, we really don't know. But what I do know is that we will get less conversion on this. We just will, okay? But my feeling is because some people know. Some people just know. They just know that, oh, that's a EverWebinar. Well, they don't. Okay, so what's really cool about EverWebinar is it is a game changer because it says Webinar Jam. So you really don't know. Unless you right-click, look at the source code, you really don't know. So, but some people just, they see that and they go, oh, I know that's recorded. And maybe they're wrong and maybe they're right. Because if it's EverWebinar or Webinar Jam, one is live, one is not. They're not going to know, but they might just, every time they see that, they might just think it's pre-recorded. And it's important to have somebody's trust on a high-ticket order. So now for me, I don't really care if it is recorded. Do you guys really care? Would you not buy it because it's recorded? Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, but who knows? Having said that, though, EverWebinar, they've done such a great job that our stats are really getting quite close, probably within a few percentage points, okay? Now, a few percentage points, well, if you do 140 webinars, that's a couple $100,000, okay? So that's worth it. But I'll tell you why we do this with our partners, okay? The reason why is I want to get as much money from my partners as possible. I'm going to pull out all the punches. I'm going to get them every single penny I can. And why do I want to do that? Keep them happy, keep them coming back. Exactly. Yep, I want to keep them coming back. And so, yeah, so we do a really good job with that. All right, so then let's talk a little bit about, what was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about chat, I think, for a sec. So just so you know, with a recorded webinar, well, actually, just so you know, probably one of the most important things on a webinar, literally, is chat. Because the key to a great webinar, or one of the keys, is engagement. You got to engage people. Because if you don't engage them, what are they doing? Who said that? Checking their email. Yeah, right? They're checking the email, they're checking their text, they're going in and out of the room, they're not paying attention. And did you see that report that just came out where they just figured out that humans have like 5% less, no, it's like 5 seconds less attention span than they had a few years ago or something like that. Did you see that study? So it's even less and less. So you got to pull out all the punches. So you have to keep them engaged, and a great way to do that is chat, for sure. So with a recorded webinar, you have two options. One is you can actually put somebody live in the chat, but the problem is you got a webinar kicking off every 5 minutes, right? And how many people might be on that webinar? Probably 2 to 0, right? They're running day and night. So, one here, one there, one here, one there. So unless you own a call center in the Philippines with hundreds of employees, it's a little challenging to do. And even though we do, even then we just don't want to deal with it. So instead what you can do is you can program the chat. So what I'll do, actually what I used to do until I gave it to Bijal, was the chat. The chat. Remember I used to do chat for years and then I sloughed it off on you, yeah. So here's the scoop. So, yeah. So, there's so much going on in my business that if I'm not really conscious of the time, nothing's going to get done. Like I have to be at the top of the whole thing. I can't get locked into tasks. I can't micromanage my business. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. But one thing that I will do, or that I used to do until Bijal took it over, thank you, B, is I would literally sit down for like a full day and program a chat, maybe sometimes even longer. So we have a webinar, and I sit down and I start programming the chat. So I hear myself, hey, this is Daven Michaels, welcome to the webinar. Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar. This is Liz. I'm going to be the admin. Welcome everybody. Welcome. Okay. So everybody, just okay, everybody. I just want to make sure you can all hear me. Okay. So if you can hear me, okay, type a big fat yes into the chat right now. Yes. No. And then I go no. Okay. So I'm doing the chat and I'm doing everybody. So I'm like the really exuberant, excited person. Oh my God, I'm so excited to hear Daven. To the heckler, this is the lamest webinar I've ever been on. Everything. I literally, I'm a master at it. And actually, B, I have to say, you're just as good. You've done a phenomenal job. So I used to sit there, I would sit there for a day and a half, really get inside their mind, the whole thing. Because I've been on enough webinars, I know every one of those people. The heckler, the brilliant person, the know-it-all, the super nice person, the mean person, everything, all that. And I'm programming the whole thing. And I used to spend a day and a half. And the reason why is because that webinar, if it was going to be in a funnel, it was going to be around for years. It was going to generate, who knows, maybe $1 million or something like that. So worth my time, right? But anyways, B took that over, so I'm very happy about that. Thanks, B. So anyways, so you can do all that. And you can do that in the recorded webinars, which is really cool. Who thinks that's kind of cool? Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the format of the webinar.
Question, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I see you are doing now GoToWebinar.
Yep.
But then to record the webinar, your evergreen, then don't you have to do the webinar in Webinar Jam to record it for evergreen?
Okay, so the question is, if you're going to deliver it in every webinar, don't you have to do it first live in Webinar Jam? And the answer is no. It's a cool way to do it, okay, because you'll really get that live feel, because it will be live, right? And every webinar has a really cool feature. You do it live, it's recording it, and then you can play it back. And you can even play back the chat, the live people that chatted, which is great too. You can do all that. But you don't have to. And I don't do that. And I'll break it down for you and show you my methodology and how I do what I do. So first of all, let's talk about format of the webinar and then how to record the webinar, okay? So first of all, the format. So who's been on a 1-hour webinar before? Who's been on a 2-hour webinar before? Who's been on a 3-hour webinar before? It's a long time, right? No 4 hours, right? Maybe 1 or 2. Okay. So what do you think the ideal length of a webinar is? Who says 1 hour? Yeah. Who says 2? Okay. Who says 3? Okay. Yeah, all of y'all are, Okay. What's that? The longer the better. That's right. So Oliver's in my mastermind. And he's right. The longer the better. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I could let you in on one of my big secrets. Do I dare do that? It's on the live stream, so I will see. Okay, so let's talk about how this works. Then they'll get mad at me. They paid to be here. So yeah, just a little static. It, all right. Right, they'll come back for more. Okay, so here's how it works. So the only rule of thumb on time is I believe you want to try to make your first CTA, CTA is the call to action, first CTA within 45 minutes, okay? CTA 45. Now, in all my experience as a marketer doing webinars, I have never been able to get my CTA to 45 minutes. Okay, I've never been able to tell a story and make the offer in 45 minutes. Social Sonic webinar was what, about an hour and 15? Yeah, it was when I probably made the first CTA. I tried. So there is drop off at 1 hour. There, you will start to see some drop off at an hour. So do the best you can, but don't rush it. The surest way to kill a sale is to rush it, right? For sure. So never rush the sale. Okay, so once you do the CTA, go long. Go as long as you can go. Long. Okay? Because, first of all, like the Social Sonic webinar, it was, so I think, at 1:15 I made the first CTA, and then I started answering questions. And I answered questions till about 2:10, 2 hours and 10 minutes. Oh, I want to tell you guys this story. Oh. Can I tell you guys a story real quick? Okay. So I'm going to probably have to rush through some of the other stuff, but I got to tell you the story. So years from now, I won't remember the Social Sonic launch. I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, okay? So now I'll remember that we did it, obviously. I remember what happened, but I won't remember the details. I won't remember the nuances, right? I'll remember this, hanging out with you guys. And so can I share with you my favorite part of the Social Sonic launch? Okay, this is awesome. So, you were around for this. Yeah, you guys were both around for this in real time. You were too. Okay, so here's what happened. So we have a partner that we created the software with. He actually heads up our dev team in India, and his name is Sumitra. And some of you in the room know Sumitra. He's a young kid in his early 20s, and he's become a great friend over the years. We first met in Nepal, and he's a great guy. We're all really tight. And Sumitra's dream, while living in India, never been out of India, was to have a software company, especially in this day and age, with the VC investors and this and that, and private equity and all this cool stuff. This was his dream. So we developed the software together, and it was time to do the internal. So when you're going to do a launch, the first thing you do is your internal. You test it to your own list, see how that goes, you tweak, you test again, you tweak, maybe test one more time, and then you start rolling it out with your partners when you feel confident that you can deliver the stats, you can deliver the numbers. Because if you can't, and you screw them out of money, they don't make money with you, you're never going to talk to them again. Because remember, they have a week, 52 weeks in a year, and maybe they're going to run a promo every week, every other week, and that's a time where they can make money. If you come in and don't deliver for them, you really cost them a lot of money, right? So you can't play games with your partners. So you have to have the stats in. So we decided we did our internal. So have you guys ever gone to an event before and you're so damn busy with your business you barely make it in the door? Yeah, that's the worst, right? It's the worst. So the three of us were at Larry Benet's event in LA, okay? And the four of us, we were all there. And was anybody else at that event? Okay, so it's the four of us. And we were doing the internal launch of our webinar at noon. And probably a lot of you in the room were on that because you're part of our tribe. And so here's what happened. So Sumitra, we have two chats going on. We've got our customer service team, and then we've got our tech team. And Sumitra just happened to be in the customer service chat because he had to watch things that were going on and so on and so forth over there. And so we launch the webinar at noon, and remember, it's pre-recorded, so it's running. And it's doing its thing, and I'm doing kind of last-minute touches and talking to our tech team during that whole process. And what was great was my demand from our team was that everything had to be perfect on this because usually, and we're getting a lot better actually, we're getting a lot better, but quite often we don't get it perfect. And the reason why is there's so many moving parts. And sometimes little things go wrong. Nobody ever really knows about it, but we know about it. And they're little things because all these little things add up to big things. Okay, it's all these little incremental things. And so, my mandate was like, it's got to be perfect. No screwing around. This has got to be perfect. So everything was double-checked, triple-checked, and we launched. And everything was perfect. Perfect. We had the highest attendance we ever had on a webinar, ever, in a decade. It was amazing. And so now we're about like an hour in. I hadn't talked to Sumitra. He's with customer service. And then we get to about an hour and 45, and I'm talking to Josh, our CTO, on Skype. And as we're talking, everything's going on, this, that. And I said to him, I said, the first CTA was at an hour and 15. We should have some sales. I'd kind of forgotten because I was thinking, at the end of the webinar. Oh, and by the way, the webinar was 2 hours and 10 minutes at this point, okay? And so I was like, there must be some sales. So I flip over to my email, just because my email, I can see the sales. One of my emails, I can see the sales coming in. And I see one sale, okay? And I was hoping for, if I had 6% conversion, I would have been happy. It would have been a starting point. And so I see like one sale. I'm like, oh, shoot, one sale. That's not good. But at least there's one sale, right? But it was like, oh, not good. And then I think I saw like a second sale or something like that. And then I flipped over to Sumitra. In the meantime, one of the things we're using is PayPal credits. So some people use PayPal credit. And the PayPal credit system isn't perfect. And if you don't get approved, you don't really know that you didn't get approved. And so, so it creates all these customer service issues. People start calling in. I tried to get the credit. I don't know what's going on. Basically, if it doesn't go through, you didn't get it. Okay, but they don't really get it, and it's a thing. So all of a sudden, the chat starts blowing up. Chat starts blowing up with our people in support. And Sumitra's on that, so he's just seeing this, and he's tripping out. And in the meantime, I go, well, Josh, I'm gonna call Liz. I go to call Liz. I'll hit you back, and then, oh yeah, here's what happens. So then I go, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot, Josh. I forgot we're taking PayPal too, the PayPal credit. He goes, oh yeah. So I flip to PayPal credit. I say, cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. There's 12 sales there. I'm like, okay, all right. So this is something. So then I flip over. I call Liz. I come back. Josh goes, dude, I just checked. There isn't 12 sales. There's 45. There's 45 sales. I'm like, oh, shit. And then we were in business, okay? And that was incredible. So I call because remember, this was, the numbers were off the chart, by the way. I think our initial conversion was like close to 20%. It was like unheard of. It was unheard of. In our history as a company, we never had that kind of conversion, ever. So I can't believe it. Oh, in the meantime, I'm not in this event. The event goes on for 2 days. I'm out in the hallway, okay, doing this. This is all in the hallway at the event. And I can't believe it. So I go to call Sumitra. I call him up. I go, Sumitra. He goes, I know. He goes, customer service, everybody's freaking out. PayPal's not working. I go, listen to me. Listen to me. I said, this is our highest attendance ever. He's like, what? I go, it's our highest conversion in the history of our company. He goes, what? I go, dude, you're an internet superstar. He's like, ah! He goes crazy. He goes crazy. It was the most amazing moment. And that's what I'll remember from this launch, for sure, for sure. It's so cool. And then literally, what pissed me off so much, like a day later, his girlfriend broke up with him, and he just lost it, okay? So all that joy was just down the toilet. He didn't get to live any of it, and I was so pissed about it. It was like 2 days later. So he got 2 days of just joy, and then his girlfriend broke up with him, and he just fell apart. So anyways, he's coming back now, but it sucks. So anyways, though, I will never forget that. That's what I'll remember. So anyways, okay, let's get back to this. So once you have the call to action, go long. Because what you're doing after that is pretty much answering questions. Questions. Because what are questions, really? They're just, somebody wants to buy, they just need clarification. So go as long as you can. The longer you can go, the better. So what happened was, I remember I called Liz in that moment, and she goes, oh, yeah, I remember the webinar wrapped up, and she goes, they're still on. They're still asking questions, asking questions. So then we went back. The biggest tweak we did from the internal is we added 20 minutes of questions. We just went on and added 20 more minutes of questions. And that was the only major tweak that we actually did, because at that point we were so time crunched, so we had to go live. So we did it, and so that was incredible. So anyways, oh yeah, so of all the webinars, of the 140 or so webinars that we did, how many do you think I did live? 2. Hey Deb, 2 webinars. So is Brucey here? Okay, cool. So 2 webinars. So the internal, 3. I did 3. So 1 was the internal. 2 was the one that we used, the actual master for the joint venture partners. And the 3rd was a partner of ours that he's like, if you don't do it live, I'm not going to do it. And he's so big that it was like, okay, we'll do it. So we did. Okay. So let's see. What did we talk about? We talked about format. We'll come around to launch in a second. Okay, so last thing is, how do you record your webinar? Right? How do you do this? So one way is you could do it on every webinar. You could do it on every webinar live, and then it'll immediately create the recording, record the chat. That would be what I would do. That's a great idea. If, and this doesn't apply to most of you in the room, if you're a seasoned webinar person. You know, if you feel confident that you can jump on for 2 hours, or an hour, hour and a half, 2.5 hours, and just go for it and not screw it up, right? And who feels that they could do that right now? Probably not, right? Okay, so instead what you're going to do, yeah, you could do it. So instead what you're going to do is record it, okay? And so what you're going to do, if you're a Mac user, how many Mac users in the room? Yeah! Woo! How many Windows users? Yeah, all right. All right. So if you're a Mac user, it's going to be the easiest for you, of course, because that's how Macs are. So Mac, you could use ScreenFlow, but my favorite is QuickTime. QuickTime, it's already in your Mac. You don't have to buy it. It's there, and you literally go File, Screen Record, and then open up your PowerPoint or Keynote. Okay, so you're going to create your presentation in PowerPoint or Keynote, and then you're going to turn on screen recording and start recording, okay? And screw it up all you want. Just go through it all the way through. Just make all your mistakes and then give it to somebody to edit it, okay? Super simple. If you're Windows, you're screwed. That's right, Greg. I will say Windows has got, well, I've heard it's gotten a lot better. I haven't looked at it since I went to Mac, so who knows, really. It looks better. I don't know. So for Windows, you can get Camtasia. I think it's a few $100s one time, but you can get a full functioning copy, like a demo copy. Hey, Brucey. Full functioning demo copy for $300. I'm sorry, for free. And you could use it. You could use it to record your webinar and then just give it back and don't pay anything for it. So, but I'm sure that you can go to Google and just search free Windows screen recording software. I bet you could find something. What is it? Screencastify for Chrome plugin. There you go. Got it? Screencastify. Well, Jing is 5 minutes. Oh, if you pay for it, you can go longer? I wouldn't use Jing. It's too low quality. I mean, I love Jing for just snapping stuff and tutorials, but no, I wouldn't use Jing for that. But yeah, what was it called again? Screencastify. Write that down. Yeah, Bruce. What's it called? Movi. How do you spell that? How do you spell Movi? M-O-V-I? Okay. All right, cool. Cool. And by the way, in this segment, I'll answer questions for you. So if you want to ask some questions in real time. Oh, well, did I open up a Pandora's box? Yeah.
On Windows key plus G. That turns on a recorder also. I'm able to record.
Okay. So he says Windows key G will start recording. Also PowerPoint on the Windows platform will record, although I tried it and it was really janky, but I'm sure it's gotten better, right? Right? All right. So here are some ways to record. And so, yeah, just go on. Oh, yeah, let me give you a big tip. Super, super, super important. And that is get a good mic, okay? And today, the mics are cheap. So we use, Adriel and Emily and I, we use Blue Nessie. And the latest Blue Nessie is the Snowball. Okay, and now these USB mics they're ridiculous. Like you can get a Snowball for like $30. Okay, but it will make all the difference in the world. You'll go from sounding like a regular person to a radio person. It's huge. So you definitely want to do that. Okay, and then just record it and give it to somebody to edit for you. You could maybe have a VA do it for you. We have editors come in and out, or anybody could do, or somebody could do it for you. I'm sure Adriel will be happy to do that for you. Hi, Adriel. Okay, there you go. All right. So, yeah, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, yes? Okay. So what did we cover? We covered the platforms, how to record them, format. Good, we're in pretty good shape. Any questions about this?
You said you were going to talk about
Program engagement. Okay, so yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute. So, I'm really glad you actually brought that up. So engagement is key. So here's how it works. So I'm kind of templated in what I do. So here's how a webinar might start. And remember, this is pre-recorded, right? So hi, everybody. It's Daven Michaels. It's the top of the hour. I want to welcome you all to the webinar. I'm super excited to have you all here. And I can see people logging in from all over the world. Can I see people logging in from all over the world? Not usually. Okay, all right. All right. So Bob, Lisa, Bill, Sally, welcome. I'm so excited to see you guys. Is this savvy? Yes, yes. Now, by the way, guys, there are a lot of webinars, actually. Okay, let me explain it. There's a lot of webinars where you've actually tuned in, and I called out your names, right? Like they were really your names, right? Okay, and so that happens. It happens sometimes. If I'm just doing like a content webinar, I'll do them, sometimes. Also, if I have a partner webinar, I'll jump on, and I'll intro them, and then I'll usually take off. I'll just disappear. But sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll just be around. Like, I'll give you an example. Right now, we're reciprocating for our 10 top partners from the launch, okay? Those guys, man, they kicked ass. So I owe them. I mean, I don't have to owe them, but I feel personally like I do. I want to do right by them. So I'm on them. I'm on those webinars. And, sometimes I'm fully present. No, I'm never fully present, but I'm fully present in the first 10, 15 minutes, and then maybe I'll pop back on at the end, that kind of thing, and I'm around. So if you hear me, it's not a parlor trick if I call your name. I'm really calling your name, although that would, with AI, eventually I'll be able to do that, right? Yeah. So, okay, so in this scenario, I'm going to pretend that it's all pre-recorded. So hi, everybody. It's Daven Michaels. I want to welcome you all to the webinar. I can see people logging in from all over the planet. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, 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 John. Welcome, Lisa. Welcome, Kathy. This is phenomenal. Do me a favor, everybody. Jump into the chat right now and give me a big fat yes. Let me know that you can hear me okay. Yes, yes, yes. No? What? Okay, remember, I don't see this. I just... Right, okay, all right. But I know somebody's going to be saying no, right? Okay, all right, cool. Well, I'm glad you can all hear me. Great. Well, welcome to the webinar, blah, blah. In the meantime, Liz is in the chat. Well, now it's our chatter. Since the launch, we have 10 chatters in the Philippines, but before that, it was Liz. So, and that was just recently. So Liz is in there, and she's seeing people log in. And so she jumps in real time, and she sees Sonata. So, hey, Sonata, welcome to the webinar. It's great to have you here. And she has copied, it's great to have you here, right? Okay. And then she jumps over, she sees Greg. Hey, Greg, welcome to the webinar. It's great to have you here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as long as there's not, more than a couple hundred people, she'll bang through that because she's got nothing else to do until I do the next call out, right? So she's just like, welcome to the webinar, welcome to the webinar, welcome. And so they see that personalized in the chat. And so that kind of gets them engaged. And then I'll ask, questions, and when I do, she'll respond back to those questions. So I'll say, hey, make sure to ask lots of questions. We're going to answer all the questions on the webinar. Make sure to ask a lot of questions, and Liz is answering those questions, right? And then, she doesn't have a ton of work to do in the beginning, but we get busier and busier, and then we do the first call to action, and she drops a link into the chat, right? So now we're starting to get sales and questions and so on and so forth. And then somebody, or actually prior to that, somebody's watching and goes, oh my God, this is that's the coolest strategy I've seen all year. And as soon as that happens, she copies that and she pastes it back to the group. Hey, everybody, Lisa says, oh my gosh, this is the greatest strategy I've seen all year long. Okay, and now it gets people really talking back and forth. And then she gets this frenzy going. And that's really the key to the chat. And it's super, super important. Should you be in the chat? No, definitely not. Maybe a VA, maybe somebody else. And a VA can totally do it. But but not you. You're busy doing the webinar. Although if it's pre-recorded, you could be in the chat. I think, it may not be the highest and best use of your time, but you could certainly do it. Okay? So everybody get that? Yep. So that's primarily most of the engagement. Here's some other info. So what we also normally do, so we will do in each cycle until just recently, this is what we would do. So we would do, we do main event, okay, main event, and then we do encore, and we might do this, 1, 2, maybe as high as 3 times, and then replay. And replay, we want to create some scarcity, so or people won't show up. So we'll do like a 72-hour replay, and then we'll take it down, just to show that we mean business. If we say 72 hours, it is going to be 72 hours, right? So we do the main event, and then we do encores. So what are encores? Who said that? Luz Dahlia? Was that you? Yeah, encores are replays, really, right? We're just calling them encores. We're delivering them on go-to. They're perceived as live, but are they? No. Now, for a lot of people, they are. So don't think that everybody is doing this. Most people aren't, okay? Most people are working for the money, okay? We've just mastered this automation process, and I need to show you that before I run out of time. Okay, so yes. Now, here's the scoop. Remember, I told you that during the launch, we were able to collect a lot of data, right? And we have decided that we're not going to do encores anymore. Nope, not going to do it. Not going to do it. And I'll tell you why. Yeah, we'll pick up some extra sales. But if we do a really good sequence, a real 72-hour urgency sequence on the replay, we're going to get about the same thing. And remember, we're not just talking about us, we're talking about our partners who don't mail when they're supposed to mail, don't do what they're supposed to do most of the time. That's the reality, unfortunately. So remember I told you we did 1.3 million? Okay, well, our goal was 2 million, and we fell short. And it wasn't because of us, it was because a lot of our partners, not all, I mean, they're all great, but a lot of them didn't do what they were supposed to do. A lot of them told us, oh yeah, we can get 500, 600 on a webinar. They got 50 or 60, okay? And why was that? Because they didn't follow the instructions. They didn't push it. They didn't push it hard. Now, why would somebody do that? Why would you take that week where you're going to do a promo anyways and not go full out? Do you guys know why? Yeah, all of the above. I don't know why. I'm asking you, actually. I really don't know why. Like, why? Honestly, listen, let me tell you. If you're a promoter and you ask me to speak on your stage, I am so grateful, okay? And I'm going to send you a nice gift, and I'm going to go out there and see if I can drum you up some more business and get you on stage, whatever. It's like, I mean, look, it's easy money. I mean, look, it's not easy to do what we do, but something like, once we've created this and then to deliver it on a webinar, it's like, come on. Why wouldn't you just go full out? It's not hard. You make a lot of money. Like, some people work in fast food. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's, okay, I'm venting. All right. Sorry. Boy, I just totally, went on a rant there, didn't I? Let it out. Yeah, I totally went on a rant there. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time. I want to make sure you get all the info you need here. So let's talk about some nuts and bolts and the launch and what it was all about. So as far as we know, nobody has ever done this many webinars in such a short period of time. And the only way to do that was to create automation that had never been created before, okay? And so this idea of not showing up for the webinar, having it pre-recorded, is not new. But nobody's ever done it as well as we have. And this allowed us to have this automation and have everybody think it was live. And the difference is this. What we did is each partner, like Casey was a partner, he received a script. And the script had intros, outros, and inserts. So, hey everybody, this is Casey Eberhard. I want to welcome you to the webinar. Today I'm gonna bring on my great friend Daven Michaels. He's gonna show you how to make a ton of money with social media. It's gonna be really exciting. Hey Daven, are you there? End of front bumper, okay? Insert. Oh my gosh, Daven, I can't wait to start doing this in my business. Insert, okay? Daven, I can't believe that. So anybody can actually just do this, like without having to, do it manually, this, that, okay, etc. So how did we do that, right? I mean, it's a jigsaw puzzle, right? You've got the main webinar, and you've got the inserts, and it's all got to fit and sound natural. So how's that done? So the first time I came up with this idea years ago, and we used it for our NWF webinar, which has generated millions of dollars. It's this evergreen webinar we've had for a long, long time. And, but it wasn't perfect. So it would go like this. So I'd say, and so you use this strategy and check it out. You start to see leads coming in. And then the person would say, oh my gosh, Daven, that's great. I can't wait to adopt that in my business. Me, the next strategy I want to share with you is da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so after hearing that for a while, like, did you see we didn't interact there? They were there, I was there, they were there, and then I was there again. But we didn't interact. We didn't talk back and forth, right? Did you get that? Okay. So I was like, I think we could do this better. So this time around for the Social Sonic launch, here's how it was recorded. I had Liz with me at the beginning, and I would say it, this, that, and then she would say, oh, Daven, that's interesting. That's something I'm going to use on my business. I said, yeah, you definitely should. Okay? And then we'd say, so you just press the button, da-da-da. And then she'd say, so all I have to do is press the button? That's right. And then we took her out. And then we scripted that. Does that make sense? Okay. And then after a while, about halfway through the webinar, Liz was like getting bored. I go, babe, you just go. I'll just talk to myself. And that's what I did. I just talked to myself. And then Aaron cut me out, our recordist, and that's how we did it. So then people would send us in the scripts, and then our recordist, or Aaron, would edit them all together. He's very familiar with the webinar. And then we had 10 go-to accounts, and we were running them simultaneously, okay? And we had created all this technology, and we're gonna release the technology and the program. It's gonna be the $1 Million Webinar Blueprint, and then there'll be an event around it, and so on and so forth. And we'll go deeper into that another time when that happens. Okay, but I'll show you what the funnel looked like. So you notice that's not my writing. That's because my writing's so bad. I asked Liz to write that for me. But this was recently in my mastermind, which I'll tell you more about this weekend. I had my people with me, and I broke down exactly what we did. And so this is a copy of that. And do you want to see what the funnel looked like? Yes, okay. So although we were at 1.3, it's grown considerably. We'll hit 2 million pretty quick. And ultimately, I think we'll do 4 million when this whole thing cycles out. It'll be 4 million. And it'll bring us, currently we have 1,300 new customers at 123 because of this promo. And I think when it's all said and done, we'll have about 2,400 new customers. So good or good? Good, yeah, real good. All right, so let's show you what it looked like. So first of all, we developed a new technology for this launch. Auto-regging. How many of you experienced the auto-reg process? Did you? So let me break it down. So normally you get an email, you click on it, you go to register, you type in your name and email, and then you're registered, right? Did any of you click to be registered and it said, congratulations, you're registered, type in your number for a text? Did you guys see that? Yeah. So that was new. That was new technology we created. Now, what do you think of that? You think that was kind of cool? Yeah, it's pretty cool. What is the upside to that? A lot of registration. Matter of fact, double the registrations. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And the reason why is we normally get about, on average, maybe a 40 to 50% reg rate. So if somebody sends us 1,000 clicks, we'll end up with 500 registrants. Well, in that scenario, with 1,000 clicks, how many registrants will we have? 1,000. Every click's a registrant. Pretty cool, right? So it was cool. It gave us a much bigger list than we would have normally had. What's the downside to it? Is there a downside? Oh, there's another upside too. We also got higher cell phone number opt-in. And why is that important? Because we text you before the webinar, which, by the way, is huge. 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 If you're not texting before a webinar, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, a lot of money. So, do you want some platforms for texting? Okay, so for texting, I would either use CallFire or Call Loop. Now, ultimately, I would use Call Loop. Call Loop, you can just before your webinar download the list and text them. But you can also, if you're using like Infusionsoft or some other platform like that, you can create HTTP posts that send that data straight into Call Loop. Okay. But you got to keep an eye on this stuff, man. Unfortunately, with automation, you're supposed to be able to walk away from it, and that's just not the case. There's just stuff that happens. Yeah.
Does Call Loop work for opt-ins, like on your live presentation when you say, hey, go text?
Yeah, so the question is, can you do short codes with Call Loop? And yes, the answer is you can. So short codes is text Daven to 8760, to get some info. I didn't realize we're almost out of time, so I'm going to have to go through this real quick. So pros and cons. The pro to auto-reg, double the conversions. The con, not enough commitment. Not enough commitment. As a result, we had lower shows. I wouldn't do auto-reg again. Forget it, okay? Text opt-in, okay? From there, they go to the webinar, encore, replay. What's new here? No encore, that's right. Okay. From here, Social Sonic, $1,000 offer. But our continuity is our VA services. Remember, it came bundled with VAs. Did we care about selling Social Sonic? No. We did it to sell virtual assistants, to sell human capital. That's why we created it. Everything we do sells into 123 from our books, our info products, our events all over the globe, and more recently software. It's just another channel to sell more human capital, okay? So we sold VAs. That's what we really cared about here, 1,300 new clients. I mean, at the bare minimum, it's a lot of money. I don't know what that is. No, they don't pay $1 a month. A minimum is $147 up to like $1,200, $1,300 a month or more. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Yeah. Also, we have our outsourcing blueprint membership site. Okay, it's only $10 a month, but we have so many of these go through every single day. It adds up. Okay. Then what happened here? We had a problem here. Big problem. What would be a problem? I'll put question mark. What would you put for problem? I don't know. Okay, I'll put a question mark. No, okay. No, that was it. But here's the problem. So what happened was, remember I said like a lot of our partners didn't really step up? Okay, a lot of them really did, but a lot didn't. And so all of a sudden we found ourselves in a precarious predicament. We weren't going to hit our numbers, okay? And so I came up with this idea. And I go, why don't we do a big webinar, like on a different offer? Because what are the affiliate commissions we need to pay for this one? None. Right, it was a different offer. So we came back around and we decided to do a Black Friday webinar. Do you think that's a good idea? Terrible idea. Everybody's shopping. Terrible idea. I was so pissed. I think we had like thousands of people register for the webinar and like hundreds showed. I was so upset. But we still made it back because the encore sequence, the replay sequence, we still captured quite a bit of it. We didn't have to pay commissions, and this got us caught up, thankfully. So that was a big deal. From there, of course, we have our coaching programs, etc., our events. We have the recips, because remember, we owe favors now. We have about 10 partners we have to recip for, but we make money on those, right? We make our affiliate commissions. Then, in the next couple of months, we're going to come out with $1 Million Webinar Blueprint, the software, the info product on a webinar, $1,000 product, and we'll go back to all the partners that ran this and say, hey, run this to your list. It's the next step in the story. Like you want to, if you bought the program or you didn't, now go behind the scenes and see how we did it. Pretty cool, right? So we'll do, hopefully, another million or two of that, and we'll pick up another 12 to 1,500 clients at 123. Then our next software release is Sales Sonic, which will be a huge game changer in the world of sales. It's unbelievable. We actually use artificial intelligence to streamline the phone sales process. Pretty intense. Then our recordist, Aaron, who's on our staff, my management style, I have a very interesting management style. Again, I think I explained to you earlier today, I kind of allow people to, I don't micromanage, I allow them to achieve their greatness. But one of those things is, being able to follow their dreams, right? So it's a weird thing because I want to encourage them to do what they want to do. At the same time, I want them to stay with me. So it's always kind of a balancing act. So Aaron wanted to have his own little business. So we're out of $1 Million Webinar Blueprint, we're going to create a business for him because he's the guy that does all the slicing and dicing of the webinars. So he's going to have a whole new business doing that for other people when this comes out. It'll be a part of the back end. So we'll get a small cut of that. He'll get his business. Hopefully he'll keep working for us. What usually happens is I set somebody up and then they don't have enough time for me anymore, which sucks. But anyways, yeah. And then here's like silver, gold, platinum, some stuff, that. And then we had some revenue from the live stream and outside speakers, things like that, affiliate offers. And that was kind of how it works. So this is sort of how we'll end up doing, hopefully around 4 mil. Cool? Yeah. Huh. Any questions? Wow, I did a good job. Yeah.
So do you, 1, 2, 3 employee do exactly what you just said for me as a customer?
No, not even. So the question is, can 1, 2, 3 employee do all this for you? Not a chance. Not a chance, no. But, we will be on the chat. We can do that stuff for you. Remember, we're task executors, not strategists. Strategists is like my higher level programs. Okay. The question is, what about running Infusionsoft? We have about 200 employees trained on Infusionsoft. So yeah, that's not a problem. Not super crazy high level stuff, but the day-to-day, no problem at all. Yeah. Right here, this one? That's Aaron. That's Aaron's new business. Yeah, slicing and dicing and editing and playing all these webinars. Yeah. Two questions, yeah.
So are you saying that we need to be in your higher level?
Yeah, to map out this kind of stuff. And, we're going to take a quick break. And actually, some of my mastery members are in the room, and I'm going to bring them up for a few, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Okay. Yeah, just for a few, so you can see what it's all about. Yeah. Money back guarantee on what? Oh, like what should we do? Yeah. That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that. So we do a 30-day money back guarantee. Now, I'm so glad you asked. What's your name? Richard. I'm so glad that you asked that. So listen up carefully, guys. This is really important. So most people do like a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's pretty standard. Now let me tell you what happens. People buy your stuff. The next shiny, bright object comes out within 30 days, and they want to return it. Okay? They thought that your product, program, or service was the best thing since sliced bread, like they're convinced of it, and then somebody else's magical marketing machine comes and they leave, right? Is that fair? No. Is that BS? Yes. Okay. So we did about 15% refunds. So we took a couple $100,000 and gave back in refunds, okay? And I knew that was going to happen. A friend of mine, really good friend of mine, he doesn't do that. He went out to his merchant provider. So your merchant provider, they don't like two things. One is chargebacks, right? You get too many chargebacks, you're done. But also, they don't like refunds either, which is kind of baloney. Like, just what should they care? You're keeping the customer happy. The customer gets their refunds, but they don't like refunds either, okay? So a friend of mine just got tired of that. He said, and he gets about 20% refunds. He's more IM than I am. And he goes, I'm not going to do that anymore. He goes, the law says I got to give him 3 days, and that's all I'm going to do. So he reached out to his merchant bank, and he said, listen, he goes, I want to do this. He goes, here's what's going to happen. He goes, my chargeback rate is going to probably double or triple, but it's still within an acceptable measure, acceptable number. But my returns are going to go down like this. Can I do this? And they say, yeah, you can do this. He said they let him do it. Now, the reason he did this is because he did a test on the prior launch, and he found that that the people who charged back never called in anyways. They never called in. They never called in and asked for a refund and didn't get it. They just didn't call and charge back. So you offering 30 days is not going to fix that because they never call in. Does that make sense? Do you get that, Richard? Yeah. So that's why they decided to do it. So we decided we were going to do it too. And then Ryan Dice, do you guys know Ryan Dice? Ryan Dice is a good friend of mine. We're hanging out for a few days up in the mountains together. And I told him what I was going to do. He goes, you're nuts. So he's like, don't do that. And so I was like, okay. So we just stuck with it and paid back the money. And, at the end of the day, you want to keep your online reputation, right? So, But just to let you know, you could make it 3 days and you'd be totally within the law and you could do what you want to do. But we did 30 days.